attendees are in listen-only mode.
Goedemorgen allemaal. Excuses dat we net even iets later beginnen dan gepland. We hadden eventjes wat technische problemen, die zijn inmiddels opgelost, dus we gaan beginnen. Mijn naam is Dennis Switzer en ik zal jullie vandaag eventjes meenemen in de introductie van dit webinar over ForeScout, CounterACT, een network access control oplossing. Zometeen zal ik het woord overgeven aan Darren. Hij is productmanager van een van onze partners. Hij zal meer gaan vertellen over de oplossing zelf. Maar om te beginnen zal ik even een korte introductie geven van wie we zijn als DearBytes. Ik hoop dat het voor de meeste van jullie bekend is. Tegelijkertijd hoop ik ook dat er nog mensen tussen zitten voor wie het nieuw is. En dan de uitleg wel even handig. Om te beginnen DearBytes in cijfers. We zijn een organisatie gespecialiseerd in IT security. We hebben op dit moment ongeveer 1200 klanten. 1200 klanten die variëren van kleine klanten in het midden- en kleinbedrijf tot echt grote enterprise organisaties met 2.000 tot 3.000 werkplekken. En eigenlijk alles daartussenin. We richten ons daarbij op meerdere branches. We hebben zo onder andere verschillende teams die zich richten op de zorg, de publieke sector, kan ik misschien beter zeggen. Maar ook de financiële branches, industriële branches, alle soorten klanten proberen we eigenlijk op hun eigen manier te helpen en specifiek voor die branche te kijken wat daar gelden, bijvoorbeeld voor regelgeving en wat voor wetten moeten er voldaan worden. Zodat we ook daarop in kunnen spelen met de security oplossingen en verschillende producten die daar aan voldoen. Op dit moment hebben we 62 security specialisten in dienst. Dat zijn zowel commerciële medewerkers die getraind zijn qua security, maar natuurlijk ook technische mensen die zorgen voor de support, consultancy, maar ook onze managed services, waarbij we echt het beheer van security uit handen nemen van de organisaties die met ons samenwerken. En een belangrijk onderdeel daarvan is ons 24/7 Security Operating Center. Binnen dit Security Operating Center kunnen we voor u als organisatie monitoren wat er nou precies aan security evenementen en incidenten zich voordoen in het netwerk, zodat we daar vervolgens op kunnen attenderen en ook kunnen helpen om daarop te sturen. Wellicht een verhaal wat er al is voorbij heeft u horen komen, is dat we dit op dit moment ook doen voor een bank in Nederland, voor Binkbank, waarmee we in de gaten houden wat voor incidenten zich op hun netwerk voordoen. En afhankelijk van de ernst van zo'n incident schakelen wij weer met de juiste personen, zodat er zo snel mogelijk actie ondernomen kan worden. Het is in ieder geval een service die we bieden, zowel voor grote als voor ook juist voor kleinere organisaties, heel interessant kan zijn. Ik noem net al eventjes dat van die 62 security specialisten we een hoop techneuten in dienst hebben. Weer een groot deel van die techneuten is dagelijks onderweg. En daardoor krijgen wij eigenlijk in de praktijk een heel goed beeld van wat gebeurt er nou in informatiebeveiliging bij organisaties waar we mee samenwerken. In de eerste plaats zien we dat het van grote invloed is op de core business. De meningen zijn heel vaak over verdeeld van moet er nou ondersteunend zijn. Ik denk dat het heel belangrijk is dat security daar een juiste balans in vindt. Security is bedoeld om dingen veilig te maken, maar het moet wel degelijk ondersteunend zijn aan de business. Op het moment dat security te strak is ingericht, kan het dusdanig een negatieve invloed hebben op de core business, dat daar de negatieve gevolgen te groot worden. Is security te ruim ingericht, dan werkt de core business fantastisch, maar is het niveau van security wellicht heel beneden peil. Dus dat spanningsveld, dat is er continu. Dat is een van de punten die we zien. Dat is ook iets waar we heel veel mee bezig zijn, om die balans daartussen te vinden. Tussen beveiliging, en nog steeds de werkbaarheid en de doorgang van de core business. Informatiebeveiliging is uiteindelijk bedoeld om de kroonjuwelen van een bedrijf te beschermen. Voor sommige organisaties is het wellicht heel makkelijk om dat op te sommen. Als we praten over technologiebedrijven, dus die specifieke technologie waar die ze ontwikkelen, waar ze gebruik van maken, dat zijn de kroonjuwelen. Voor sommige bedrijven is dat wellicht wat minder makkelijk vatbaar en gaat het echt om bepaalde data, of bepaalde informatie die tot de kroonjuwelen behoren. Waar we ons op richten is dat we samen met de organisatie op zoek gaan naar die kroonjuwelen. Daar vervolgens risicoprofielen aan hangen en kunnen kijken hoe we op basis van die risicoprofielen die kroonjuwelen zo goed mogelijk kunnen beschermen. Een derde punt is wat we in de praktijk zien, is dat IT-security nog te vaak een zorg is voor alleen de directie in de ICT. In ieder geval, dat is de perceptie. En helaas nog niet van de gehele organisatie. Er zijn een heleboel onderzoeken die continu aan de lopende band uitkomen. Verwijzen is zo'n partij die jaarlijks een onderzoek presenteert over IT-security. En daar zie je dat het toch heel belangrijk is dat de hele organisatie zich bewust is van informatiebeveiliging. En hier ook beter over nadenkt. Je ziet ook dat heel veel uitbraken of incidenten die zich voordoen aan de kant van informatiebeveiliging vaak beginnen aan de kant van een eindgebruiker door per ongeluk ergens op te klikken, per ongeluk een bepaald mailtje te openen. Samen met de oplossingen die in plaats staan en de mensen die beheren, vormt het een geheel. Dus dat is ook waar wij mee bezig zijn, ervoor te zorgen dat iedereen van de directie tot het beheer van de security en de eindgebruiker zich bewust is van security. En het laatste punt wat we zien is dat 75% van de aanvallen opportunistisch is. Nou, waarom staat deze tussen? We horen vaak het argument, ja, we zijn geen bank, we zijn geen defensie. Klopt, is helemaal waar. Ik denk ook dat inderdaad een bank of een defensieorganisatie, een organisatie die hele geavanceerde technologie ontwikkelt, hebben met hele andere soorten aanvallen te maken en dus ook een ander niveau van beveiliging. Maar omdat 75% van de aanvallen niet specifiek gericht is op dit soort organisaties, maar juist opportun is, blijft het wel degelijk belangrijk ook voor een organisatie die zichzelf wellicht onder het kopje gewoon beschouwt. Om een beveiliging goed op orde te hebben. Nou, daar geven we aan. Ja, dus de noodzaak is voor iedereen aanwezig om iets met security te doen. Afhankelijk van wat voor branche zit je en met wat voor kroonjuwelen heb je te maken. Dus alleen de indeling van die security en hoe je die security implementeert, daar zitten de verschillen in. Dan DearBytes in actie. Nou, wat doen we? Kort samengevat beschermen we de digitale omgeving van onze klanten en zorgen we ervoor dat ze inzicht en controle hebben. En juist die laatste twee zijn heel belangrijk om ervoor te zorgen dat die security op peil is. We kunnen simpelweg iets uitrollen en ervan uitgaan dat het goed is, maar we moeten inzicht en dagelijks controle hebben om daadwerkelijk te kunnen zeggen of de security nog steeds op niveau is. En om dat voor elkaar te krijgen opereren we op 3 niveaus. Op een preventief niveau, waarbij we maatregelen en oplossingen aanbieden die handelen voordat het probleem ontstaat, om incidenten tegen te gaan. We zitten ook op het niveau van respons. Op het moment dat er nou iets gebeurt, willen we het ook zo snel mogelijk kunnen detecteren om daar vervolgens adequaat op te kunnen reageren. En we kijken ook naar de organisatorische kant. Ik legde net al eventjes uit dat het een speelveld is van techniek en van mensen. Als we dat speelveld dan in een percentage gaan aanduiden, dan is security voor 80% afhankelijk van de mens. Met de mens bedoel ik de configuratie, het beheer van de oplossing, maar ook vervolgens de eindgebruiker die achter het systeem zit. En slechts 20% van de techniek die daarachter zit. De techniek is dus wel degelijk heel belangrijk. Maar nog belangrijker is hoe we daarmee omgaan, hoe we dat beheren. En hoe we mensen bewust maken van hoe ze hiermee omgaan. Nou, binnen deze speelvelden, binnen deze 3 niveaus, hebben wij verschillende diensten, verschillende producten waarmee we organisaties helpen. En daarmee proberen wij voor elke organisatie tot een beveiligingsniveau te komen waarmee de risico's voor die organisatie adequaat afgedekt zijn. En wellicht ook bepaalde risico's geaccepteerd worden. Dit is in een notendop wie we zijn als DearBytes en wat wij doen. Nou, om over te gaan naar het onderwerp waar we voor vandaag zitten. We zitten hier bij elkaar voor ForeScout. Binnen ons portfolio werken we al een tijdje met ForeScout. ForeScout is een Network Access Control oplossing. Waarmee we inzicht kunnen krijgen wat voor systemen zich op ons netwerk bevinden. Welke gebruikers daarop werken. En om ervoor te zorgen dat we het aantal incidenten kunnen verminderen, kunnen we dan ook kijken van voldoen die systemen aan ons beleid. En afhankelijk daarvan, waar moeten die systemen terechtkomen zodat het veilig blijft. Gaan we even overschakelen naar Engels, omdat ik het woord ga geven aan Darren Parker. Darren, welcome. I'm going to hand over the screen to you. Darren is going to tell us more about ForeScout and their network access control solution. Darren is product manager for ForeScout, and he can tell you everything about the solution. If there are any questions during the presentation, I invite you to put them in the question box. At the end of the presentation, there will be room for a Q&A, and we will get back to the questions asked in the question box, so we get you an answer. Darren, let me see. Unmute you.
Mute.
Yeah, I unmuted you.
Good morning, everyone.
Okay, I'm going to give you the screen right now.
Thank you.
There we go.
Okay.
Yes.
So can everybody see my screen?
I can see it, so let's see. I think you can go ahead, Darren.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so it's showing up okay, has it?
Yes.
Marvellous, okay. Thank you very much. As already discussed, my name's Darren Parker. I'm the ForeScout Product Manager here at Cohort Technology. We are, for our part, the distributor or sole distributor for ForeScouts in the UK, Ireland, and parts of Europe. I'm joined today by one of my senior ForeScout engineers, Andrew Wilmot. Just to give you a quick overview on the session, there'll be a few slides from myself introducing ForeScouts and as a vendor and their security technology in the form of CounterACT, their appliance-based technology. So there'll be a few slides from me, and I'll hand over to Andrew, who will provide a technical overview and demonstration of the CounterACT management console. This is actually a live demo with utilizing an appliance that is on our production network here. So it's not a canned demo, it's not just an overview, it's actually a live demonstration of the technology itself. So as already discussed as well, should you have any questions, please don't hesitate to type them down, and we'll go through any questions that you have towards the end of the session. So, give you a quick overview on ForeScout, who they are, what they do. So, ForeScout have now been around since 2000, headquartered in Cupertino, California. All R&D is done out of Tel Aviv in Israel. Over 55% growth year on year. In fact, this year we're striving to for even larger numbers, more sustained growth. And as it says, they're second only to Cisco in terms of network access control market share. However, as a pure network access control or NAC vendor, ForeScout is very much leading the way. They're a global organization, global deployments, working through multiple different vertical markets and industries, and they have some of the largest NAC deployments of any NAC vendor globally. From a support perspective, ourselves, Cohort, working in conjunction, very close conjunction with DearBytes and with ForeScout, provide a very comprehensive support service throughout the UK and Europe. ForeScout do themselves employ a follow-the-sun service. However, here at Cohort, we provide a complete 24/7 support service, including hardware replacement, next business day, etc. So, with regards to the support, you're very much catered for and well looked after as customers. So, in terms of where the market analysts see ForeScout as a NAC vendor, here we have the network, or the magic quadrant, should I say, for network access control from Gartner. This is the latest one, came out in December. As you can see, ForeScout are in the top right-hand corner. They're in the leaders quadrant. This is our third consecutive year of being a leader from a Gartner perspective. And this is true to say for most other market analysts, Tolley, Forrester, all have ForeScout as a leader in terms of delivering network access control solutions and technology. With regards to BYOD and bring your own device, Gartner in particular have been very complimentary on ForeScout's ability to be able to execute and deliver BYOD strategies and plans and solutions. But we'll come on to that in a moment and discuss that in further detail. It's also worth mentioning that these reports are downloadable via ForeScout.com, so please do feel free to visit ForeScout.com for further information, particularly around the market analyst side of things. So customers and their requirements. So on a day-to-day basis, we see various different organizations, whether large or small, but have very similar requirements in the ability to be able to give access to the corporate network via iPhones, laptop devices, tablets, whether that's coming in via wired network, wireless, or indeed VPN. And again, the ability to be able to protect against zero-day attacks, provide regulatory and compliance checking, to effectively wrap those devices and the ability to be able to provide security policy around those devices and users and applications. And what you need as an organization to be able to deliver this level of security and access is real-time visibility. And again, real-time automated security controls. So there's a quick selection of some of our customers here in the UK and across Europe. Again, I won't dwell on this too long, but as you can see, some household names there. And a quick selection of some of our larger customers across the globe as well. At the very top, Bank of New York, Mellon, up until recently were the largest single deployment of CounterACT, protecting over 250,000 endpoints and devices via a single management console. Quite recently, however, that project and that customer has been superseded by quite some way with Citigroup, a recent project win. When that's completed, the ForeScout solution and CounterACT solution will be managing and have visibility of over 1.3 million devices. But the common theme here throughout all of these organizations, and again, whether they're large or small or whatever vertical market or industry they reside, typically have some very similar requirements. Number one on that list is visibility. The ability to be able to see devices on the network in real time, but not only see those devices, but also manage them. And again, all of those customers there, a very similar set of requirements. So how does it work? CounterACT is the product, as I mentioned. And again, what we would expect most organizations to see today are various different endpoints, Windows devices, Linux boxes, Apple Macintosh, etc., various different network devices, switches, routers, a whole host of various different applications, and of course different users. As we're all well aware, there is a tremendous amount of non-corporate devices that are looking to connect to the network. I myself have an iPhone, a BlackBerry, an iPad, and a Windows laptop, and I would consider myself a typical user. Again, most organizations will have various different third-party applications, antivirus, perhaps personal firewalls, encryption technologies, etc. And what we would expect most organizations to see today is what they purchase. This is what you've bought. You have various different endpoints, and of course you have visibility of those. But as we're all well aware, there's a tremendous amount of devices, users, applications that aren't visible. And of course, what that brings with it is inherent security risks. It's easy to protect against what you're aware of. It's very difficult to protect against what you're unaware of. And what ForeScout and the CounterACT solution can deliver you is that complete, comprehensive visibility of everything on your network in real time. So this is kind of a summary, really, of the CounterACT solution on one slide. What we call our 4 cornerstones: mobile control, network access control, or traditional NAC, endpoint compliance, and threat control. We have a built-in IPS engine, or intrusion prevention system. I'll come on to that in more detail in a moment, but it's a part of the product which is available and out of the box from day one. The majority of the time we're agentless, okay, so there's no need to have client software or anything on the endpoint. We're highly scalable. Very big differentiator between ourselves and our competitors is our ability to be able to scale, provide solutions that can cater for delivering anything up to managing 100 concurrent devices through to multiple hundreds of thousands of devices. Another big differentiator between ourselves and our competitors is our ability to interoperate with existing network environments. So we have the ability to be able to drop in to your customers' environments without the need for any infrastructure upgrades or changes to their existing environment. So in all fairness, what ForeScout are trying to achieve is to perhaps move away slightly from that traditional network access control or NAC strap and really more towards an automated security control platform. So we're going to have a look now where we will typically deploy. So something on the technical side of things, majority of the time the CounterACT appliance will connect via the core switches, utilize the span ports or the mirror ports on those core devices, and that gives us our ability to be able to see all devices, all traffic that's traversing the network. So it's an out-of-band solution. We're not in line, unlike our competitors. So should anything happen to the CounterACT appliance, it will have no detrimental effect to the network performance. You will simply lose your NAC services. As I've already mentioned, with majority of the time we're clientless. And 90% of all the features and functions you'll see today are all out of the box from day one. Okay, so there's no hidden license fees, there's no hidden subscription models. Everything is available. The majority of most customers' requirements in terms of features and functions are out of the box from day one. The other 10% that I'm alluding to are new additions or relatively new additions to the product portfolio. And these are integration modules, mainly around the integration with existing mobile vendors and mobile device management vendors. But again, we'll come on to this in a moment. So we'll quickly see what happens when a device connects to the network and the process which CounterACT undertakes. So we want to know what sort of device is it, who owns it, who's logged in, and more importantly, what applications the device is running. As I've already mentioned, this makes no difference whether it's coming in via the wired, wireless, or VPN network. Here's a quick example of the management console. I'm, again, not going to dwell on this long because we're going to see this working in a moment. But as you can see, it's quite easy on the eye, very reminiscent of Outlook, where you have your NAC policies on the left, your devices, in this case mobile devices, on the right-hand side. And you can click on those mobile devices and get infinite amounts of information. But again, we're going to see this working in a moment when Andrew does his presentation. So grant access. It's very important to understand that it's completely up to you as an organization how you allow or deny access to devices on the network. We don't tell you how to do it. It's very much up to you how you want to do it. We have the ability to be able to drop ports. We can utilize virtual firewall features. We have guest registration features. We can block access, restrict access, etc. But like I said, it's entirely up to you as an organization how you go about allowing or denying access. We're not going to tell you how it's done. It's up to you as a business. Here's a quick example of the guest registration page. We utilize a feature called browser hijacking. So we can screen pop a message or an HTML page on the device to ask for some credentials. And this can be completely customized to your particular business, your particular corporate branding, etc. But these are the typical credentials you would want to gain from a guest before allowing them access. Another quick example here of where CounterACT is used quite often is this ability to be able to segment the network as well. Only allow access to certain employees or restrict access to various different groups of users. And again, CounterACT has that ability to be able to segment the network. So we have a built-in remediation engine. What does that quite simply mean? We have the ability to be able to identify problems, and we have the ability to be able to fix the problems. A very common policy that is used is antivirus. A, is antivirus installed? And B, is it up to date, and is it working, and is it on the latest patching? So we have the ability again to be able to start and stop applications. A very popular feature, particularly when employing guest access, is the ability to be able to restrict what applications are allowed to work on the endpoints. A prime example would be stop the use of instant messaging, or perhaps peer-to-peer networking, or Skype, etc., when that device is connected to your network. When it leaves, it goes back to normal. The customer or the user can go back to their original habits. Here's a quick example, really, and again, I won't dwell on this. Example of the sort of level of granularity on the management console in this particular instance, the remediation piece. But again, we're going to see this working when Andrew does his demonstration shortly. And Protect, as I sort of mentioned earlier, we have a built-in IPS engine or intrusion prevention system as part of the product. It's out of the box from day one, very, very popular feature. It's a patented technology from ForeScout, so it's not traditional IPS. We're not reliant upon signatures or updates or perhaps connections back to Snort. It's very much looking for untoward behavior. Okay, so all malware will show that very similar behavior. Malware and viruses, etc., want to propagate, to spread, to infect other host machines. Okay, CounterACT picks up on that behavior. It utilizes a honeypot technique. Will then identify said infected device, and it's again up to you as an organization how you quarantine that device. But rest assured, we have the ability to be able to identify zero-day attacks. We have the ability to identify mutated viruses, etc. Whereas your antivirus company won't be able to pick up on these, the CounterACT does. We're not going to fix the endpoint. That's not ForeScout's job. But we do have the ability to be able to identify very, very quickly infections and infected host machines. Quick example of the reporting engine. So again, I won't dwell on this because we'll see it working, but needless to say, we have a very intuitive reporting engine that's part of the product. You can schedule weekly, daily, monthly sort of scheduled reports, high-level executive management overviews, or very sort of in-depth technical detailed reports as well. So this particular slide is really the secret to ForeScout's success. This is why ForeScout is the #1 vendor in terms of network access control. Why? We utilize what we call plugins. Okay, so this gives us the ability to be able to drop the CounterACT solution into a customer's existing network without the need for any costly upgrades or changes. So it doesn't matter if you have Cisco Nexus core switches, HP ProCurve at the edge, Sophos antivirus with Juniper firewalls and a VPN solution. We will utilize the correct plugins to be able to integrate with your existing network. And this is proved in a proof of concept. Okay, so all sales from ForeScouts globally are based off the back of a POC or a proof of concept. So this gives us the ability to be able to show the customers 3 reasons. 1, we can demonstrate how quickly and painlessly it is to install ForeScout and the CounterACT solution and subsequently manage it. 2, it gives you the ability to be able to play with the technology over a 30-day evaluation period. And thirdly, and I guess most importantly, it gives us the ability to be able to spec the correct solution for you. So we need to understand how many concurrent devices need to be managed on a network. Typically a very difficult question to answer until we get a box on site. But these proof of concepts are run as a free of charge service. We work in conjunction with our trusted partners such as DearBytes to be able to provide you with this proof of concept, this service, to be able to test and evaluate ForeScouts on your own network. Here's the product family. It couldn't really get much easier. There's 6 appliances in the product family, starting off with the baby box, the CTR, manages up to 100 concurrent devices, right the way through to the CT10000 or CounterACT 10000, which manages up to 10,000 concurrent devices. All of these hardware appliances can also be bought as virtual appliances. There is also what we call the Enterprise Manager, which isn't shown here, but the Enterprise Manager is the ability to be able to manage multiple CounterACTs. So mobile, BYOD and MDM, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but needless to say what ForeScout have done, which is far more than most other network or network access control vendors have achieved, is the ability to be able to integrate with existing mobile solution vendors. So what they did in terms of delivering BYOD and how they position themselves there, ForeScout have integrated with the top 5 MDM vendors that Gartner recognise. So Good, Mobile Iron, Zen, Mass 360 and AirWatch. And what that's enabled us to do is bridge the gap between what would typically be two disparate technologies, MDM and network access control, bridge the gap and bring those two technologies onto a single management platform. And that's what gives us our ability to be able to fundamentally deliver a BYOD solution. And this is how Gartner have recognized it as well. Is again, if to deliver any BYOD solution, you would need two fundamental base platforms, and that is MDM and NAC. And we've brought those together, along with other typically disparate systems as well, onto a single management console. So why ForeScout? So to kind of wrap things up from my end before handing over to Andrew, why do customers consistently choose ForeScout? One, it's easy to deploy. Two, it's subsequently easy to look after. Majority of the time we're clientless, but the main reason is our ability to be able to integrate with your existing network. We are not reliant upon the latest, greatest 802.1x enabled switches to work within the environment. We will seamlessly integrate with the customer's existing environment. So that's it from me. Thank you very much for your time. I'm going to hand over to Andrew, and Andrew will provide a live demonstration. Andrew, you should have, yes, there you go.
Hi there. So my name's Andrew Wilmot, and I'll be showing you some of the basic features of the CounterACT console. So as you can see here, this is the first screen that you get to when you log in. On the left-hand side, there are a number of trees, and one here contains all your policies, so you can go down here, see the policies that are applied, and so on. On the right-hand side, you can see a list of currently all hosts in the network. If I select one of these policies, it will then filter it down to the hosts that are affected by that policy. So this one here is, for instance, a list of devices that we've seen sending SMTP traffic. If we want to restrict it to a particular segment on the network, we can go down here and we can choose one of the segments that we've defined. So, for instance, DMZ. So now we can see in the DMZ, these are all the devices that we've seen sending outbound SMTP traffic. If we actually go for the LAN, what we can see, if we choose one of these servers, we can go to its profile, and we can see a bit about the device. So we can see its DNS name. This one is in fact a Cisco switch. Let's find one. Yeah, so for a Windows machine, you get a bit more information. So here we can see NetMask's name, a bit of information about the policies that have been applied to it. Down here, we can see the ports that are open on the device. We can see information about the switch port it's connected to, so it's Ethernet port 1, it's on this particular VLAN, and so on. Any one of these policies that you can see here can actually be used to define actions to the host. So if we have a look down here at some of our other policies, for instance, over here we have an asset classification policy, which goes through and is basically looking at this column here, the network function column. So we can see here, is it a Windows machine, or is it another network device, a switch, is it a printer, and so on. Once we've determined that, we can then see if it's a corporate machine or not. So if we go here, we can see corporate hosts. So these are hosts that are determined without any agent as being members of the domain. Everything else comes under guest hosts. And you can customize this however you want. So you don't have to just be corporate host and guest host. You can have corporate hosts, guest hosts, and third-party contractors, for instance, if you wanted to. And you can identify those remotely, again, without an agent. If we take some of these machines that are actually on the domain, we can log into using domain credentials, and we can remotely instrument even more details from them. So again, to go to the profile of this one, we can see that I'm logged into it. Because we know who I am, we can see down here all my details that have been pulled out of Active Directory. So we can see the groups I'm a member of. And again, being based on that group membership, we can apply actions. So for instance, we could say, okay, well, I'm a member of second line, but I'm not a member of accounts, for instance. So you could put a virtual firewall on me that would prevent me from connecting to any of the account systems because I don't need access to those. But being a member of second line gives me access to perform support actions on systems, and in fact it's actually what's being used to allow me to log in to this device using my Active Directory username and password. So if we have a look up here at inventory, so the CounterACT has the basic ability to audit what's going on your network. So as we saw earlier, we can see and base policies based on events we've seen. We can also just record information for the purposes of auditing the network. So for instance, again, if we find out myself here, we can see what machines I'm logged into. And at the moment, I'm not logged into anything. It's still resolving. There we go. So that's the machine we saw earlier that I'm logged into. We can see here, if we sort by number of hosts, we can get an idea of maybe who's using their accounts in more than one place. So for instance, the administrator is logged into 2 servers. The local administrator is also being used, so again, that could be considered a security risk. So you can actually see which machines the local administrator is logged into. And if you wanted to, you could force them to log in with an actual domain account just by putting an immediate action of login. Or if you were more security conscious, you could actually do an immediate action of restrict. And in fact, if you went to switch block, you could actually just kick the device off the network. There's various other options there, so applying an ACL to the switch, assigning the device a different VLAN, and virtual firewall, allowing you to firewall traffic from or to the device. Other information, so pretty much every plugin we install gives us more information. So down here we can see information about the hardware on the network. So this is instrumented from WMI to tell us exactly what's on the network. So you can see here there's 3 PowerEdge T410s, but only 1 Lenovo. Final thing in here, we can actually see under Windows the applications installed. So applications installed. So you can actually use this to work out what applications are installed in a network. So again, we can see here .NET frameworks installed on most things. If we look at Excel, for instance, we can see Excel 2010s installed. If we then order it by that, we can see actually well, there's still a few machines running Excel 2007. Most of the machines are on some form of 2010. And you can use this to ensure that your network is complete and up to date. Rather than just going in manually and looking at it, what we can do is we can actually define policies. So if we go over to here, we can make things a lot simpler. So there's a number of predefined policies here. So for instance, the asset classification policy is predefined. You don't have to worry about it. Same down here, the guest control policy is predefined. There are a number of predefined compliance policies. So for instance, overall endpoint compliance or generally specific endpoint compliance. So if you want to make sure antivirus in organizations up to date, it's just a case of going through a wizard. Again, if we do the overall endpoint compliance, choose where we want to apply this policy to. So segments is everything. Over here, what do we want to look at? Personal firewall, antivirus, Windows updates, peer-to-peer, instant messaging. Maybe you allow instant messaging, so we'll untick that one. Click Next, and then Finish will create the policies for you. We've in fact already created those, so we don't actually need to do it again. As you can see, there's a number of predefined policies there. There's also one for PCI compliance that walks you through all steps you need to set up your network for PCI compliance. And finally, if none of those work, there's the option for custom policy. So give it a name, choose who we want to apply it to, and then we can base the policy on anything we can see here. So, for instance, if we wanted to flag up all versions of Office that weren't 2010, we can go in here, applications installed, meets the following criteria, and contains Office 2007, for instance. So that will show us all the Office 2007 devices. If we go here and have a look at some of the other things, so for instance, the AirWatch plugin allows us to view information about the device. So we can see, is the device connected to AirWatch? There's some particular settings set on it. What profiles are applied to it, and so on. Going down here, device information gives us pretty much everything we can see without having to interrogate the device. So any DHCP requests it's made, MAC address, the results of an Nmap scan, what's the results if we SSH to it. Events gives us a load of things that we've seen the device do. Down here we can base policies on hardware in the device. We can also base policies on integration with Microsoft SMS or SCCM. Down here, we've already done that. So switch, we can base things based on VLAN, the name of the VLAN, switch port, the alias of the switch port, and so on. As you can see, it's pretty much endless. And for all of these, track changes allows us to notice that there's a change in that policy. So for instance, if we go down here, I should have a switch port change. So basically we're saying, find the right one, basically we can say, okay, well, here you've taken your device and you've plugged it in to another device. So there's quite a few customers who want to know, are laptops, for instance, that have been assigned to users actually being used as laptops? One of the easiest ways to do that is to say, okay, well, has the laptop or the device been plugged into more than one switch port? If it's only ever remained in one switch port, the chances are people are just using it as a desktop, and you could replace their laptop with a desktop and save yourself some money. So again, we'd combine that check with the hardware check and actually verify that it is a laptop. So down here, device being a laptop and switch ports changing. And that will give you a list straight away of all the laptops being used as laptops and all the laptops that aren't being used as laptops. And because we know the user that's logged in, we can automatically send them an email suggesting that they provide a reason for why they haven't used their laptop as a laptop, which just saves on work basically. So by automating everything with the ForeScout, you don't have to do stuff. So the idea is putting the ForeScouts into your network shouldn't actually create any extra work for you. It will actually reduce the amount of work because tasks that previously had to be done manually by walking to a machine and inspecting it or logging into it remotely and inspecting it can all automatically be done, automatically resolved, and you can get on with your work. Final component is the threat component. So the ForeScout has a built-in IPS technology. What we do is we look for suspicious behavior on the network. We do this with the monitor ports spanning the traffic into the device, and we can look for suspicious behavior. So for instance, people doing port scans on the network, people who are connecting to servers, people who are failing to log into file shares, websites, and so on. And we can guess that something's going on. In terms of resolving these threats, that can be done automatically as well. So we can actually apply a virtual firewall. So for instance, if we see someone repeatedly trying to log into a web server, we can apply the virtual firewall to them, and we could just block them from that one web server. So if the user's unaware that they've got a malicious program on their computer that's attempting to compromise the network, we can block them from whatever that malicious program is doing. So for instance, if there's a computer worm that's trying to infect other machines, we can prevent that worm from infecting other machines, whilst at the same time allowing the user to get on with their work in ways that aren't affected by the worm. So there hasn't been many network worms for a while, but certainly in the past there have been worms that have shut down organizations' networks for days at a time. With the virtual firewall and the connection, we can identify all those infected machines, isolate them from the network, and allow you to go and resolve those machines whilst the other devices can continue to work as normal. So, the last thing on here is dashboard. Not much to say here. It looks nice on a screen. And just always load. It should load in a second. There we go. So you get a nice overview. There's also a read-only interface that allows you to look at audit data on the network. So for instance, if you don't want to give your help desk team access to the full GUI, you can give them access to, okay, I don't have Flash installed. Yeah, you can give them access to basically a read-only interface that allows them to search for whatever user they're looking for, and based on that user, they can then determine what has happened. Although they can't perform any actions, they can at least see, okay, well, the reason you've been blocked from the network is because, for instance, your antivirus isn't up to date, and that will hopefully allow them to resolve the issue. Yeah, so I don't know if we want to now go and have a look at some of the questions.
Yeah, that's a good idea. One question about the IPS functionality. Is it a full replacement of a dedicated IPS solution?
It says yes, it's part of the solution. So it comes with it. There's no separate license for the IPS side. It's not signature-based. It is purely behavioural-based. There's no signatures to update, but it is integrated into it, and it can provide a nice complement to border-based, signature-based IPSs.
Okay, great. One other question is regarding the application functionality. Is the only functionality you have regarding applications is to block the applications, or are there more options?
So in terms of what we can do to applications, yes, there's the option of killing the process. So if we go down here to the applications, so we go in, we can determine several things about the application. So we can say, is it running? So down here, so is the application installed? There's a couple of advanced things. So for things like instant messaging, peer-to-peer, we can actually deal with them without you having to sort of do the hard work of working out what the process name is. For everything else, you can sort of do it manually. So if the application is installed, Windows application is installed, which gives you all the details you need, and then we should see services running as well. So we've got Windows process running. So based on that, either it being installed or running, we've then got a couple of restrict actions we can do. So we can kill the process. So just put in the name of the process and kill it. We can also run a script, for instance. So if you know, for instance, say you had Office 2007 and you had a deployment script that allowed you to upgrade it to 2010, we could run that script as a command, and that could run in the background and up software. But it's not, the ForeScout isn't really a application management tool. Our preferred solution would be to integrate with your application management provider, so something like SCCM or App Deploy to actually deploy the application itself. We'd be more concerned with actually monitoring it, making sure that SCCM or the application deployment tool had actually succeeded in deploying the application to the endpoint. We could then say, okay, well, we initiated an upgrade. A month later, there were 10 machines that hadn't been upgraded, so maybe it's worth actually sending an email to the desktop team, for instance, and saying, okay, well, here's a list of 10 machines that need upgrading, and then they can actually remediate those remaining 10 machines, whilst the majority of machines have been dealt with automatically by your application tools.
Yeah. Okay, great. One other question is regarding the antivirus checks. We saw there was a sheet with several antivirus vendors. Are there any specific integrations with these vendors?
So we can detect pretty much every antivirus vendor. So here a list of the vendors we support. In terms of sort of integrating with their management tools, we can integrate with the McAfee EPO server. So that gives us a bit more control over McAfee antivirus. But for the most part, we just understand, as we don't integrate with the management console so much, we understand the software that's running.
Yeah.
We can check that it is running. We can check that it's up to date. And then as a result of that, we could send a message to the antivirus management console using either SNMP or syslog, or whatever method you wanted to use to tell the antivirus deployment software that it should deploy the software. Again, we could run a script. We could run the antivirus deployment script if you wanted to. But our preferred method would be just to notify the antivirus deployment tool that maybe it missed something, that it should look at that device again.
Okay, great. Is there also any integration with vulnerability management solutions? I can imagine this question because you could be the device. I'm sorry. ForeScout could be the device for detecting a device in your network, and from then on connecting with a vulnerability scan or something like that.
So integrating with a vulnerability scanner.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't think we've got any vulnerability scanners supported out of the box. Darren might be able to answer that differently. What we do have is we have the data exchange plugin. So over here, what we have, I think it's installed on here. No, we haven't got the data exchange plugin installed, unfortunately. So data exchange plugin is a separate licensable product, which basically allows us to integrate with anything. So we can connect to databases and read and write data to the database. We can also connect to web services. So if your tool has a web service, so a web API, we can connect to it and, again, read and write data from that API based on the results of policies. So, for instance, if you saw a new device connected to the network, you could say to a vulnerability scanner, okay, run a vulnerability scan against it. If you see maybe that there's a change before this device didn't have port 80 open, now it does have port 80 open, you can immediately schedule a scan of that web service to make sure that this new web server that's come online is in fact patched and up to date. So there is that option for fine-grained integration. There's also the option to write your own plugins if you wish, but the data exchange plugin or DEX plugin makes integrating with other devices a lot simpler.
Yeah, this also works the other way around, if I'm correct. So if I have a vulnerability scanner in place, based on the results from those vulnerability scans, I can set up different policies within my CounterACT appliance to place those devices in a separate VLAN.
Yep, that's certainly possible. Yep, so based on, well, anything essentially.
Yeah.
So any of the options you have here, you can perform any action you want essentially. So all of these conditions here, so everything from being a member of an Active Directory group to being a particular piece of hardware, having a particular MAC address, allows you essentially in your actions to assign to VLAN. And we can do various different kinds of assign to VLAN. So wireless devices, we can move to well, change the role, which will basically a wireless controller change your VLAN. We can also apply ACLs. So if you prefer, rather than moving things to different VLANs and having to set up, say, a remediation VLAN across your organization, what we can do instead is actually just write an ACL. So you remain on the same VLAN, but you're restricted from accessing everything but maybe your antivirus update server. So you can only update your antivirus once that's resolved. You then allow full access again.
Okay, great. I don't see any further questions for now. If there are any questions, you can put them in the question box. Then we can ask them right now. I don't see anything more coming in. Let's wait for another moment. Darren, I don't know if you have something to add based on what Andrew has shown or the questions that have been asked. Darren?
Hi there.
Oh, hi. I don't know if you have anything to add based on what we've seen or the questions that have been asked. But
No, I think Andrew's adequately and admirably answered any questions that there have been so far. But yeah, if there are any further questions, then please do let us know.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, I see in the question box there aren't any new questions coming in. So I think we just wrap it up for now.
Okay.
I'll go to Dutch again. Nou, ik wil jullie in ieder geval allemaal bedanken voor jullie aandacht. Ik hoop dat het een nuttige sessie is geweest waarin in ieder geval antwoord is gekomen op de vragen die er zijn. Een duidelijk beeld heeft geschetst wat ForeScout te bieden heeft met hun NAC-oplossing. Nou, zoals natuurlijk ook wel gedurende de presentatie naar voren kwam, geeft dit ook aan. Een van de redenen waarom wij samenwerken met ForeScout is juist vanwege die integratie die er ligt met verschillende oplossingen. Integratie die er ligt met McAfee, integratie die er ligt met bijvoorbeeld ook een partij als AirWatch, oplossingen waar wij ook mee samenwerken, is voor ons een heel belangrijk punt. Wat we ook altijd zeggen, het is heel belangrijk dat security met elkaar integreert om het zo gedegen mogelijk te maken. Nou, dat is voor ons een van de grote redenen waarom we zo'n grote voorstander zijn van ForeScout als Network Access Control oplossing. Mochten er toch nog vragen zijn, achteraf kunt u natuurlijk altijd contact opnemen met ons via uw account manager. Dan zullen we natuurlijk op die vragen terugkomen. De opname van het webinar zal in de loop van deze week ook nog verschijnen via ons YouTube kanaal. Zodat u hem ook nog een keer op uw gemak kunt terugkijken. Dan wil ik in ieder geval nu bedanken voor uw aandacht. En dan wens ik u nog een hele fijne dag. Okay, Darren, you are still here?
Hi there, yes.
Okay. One moment.